water, which is a very good thing, with very few that actually entered into the Gulf. This year, the prediction's not so much. It should be a very active season. But going into the La Nina, you see that on the Pacific side is definitely a lot cooler. They're not predicting as heavy of a hurricane season in comparison to the Atlantic side, which will lead to, obviously, hotter waters. As you can see here, the water temperatures as of June 2nd are relatively getting up in the upper 80s, close to the low 90s right now. The good thing is there's nothing in the next 7 days. I'll just tell you that, which is refreshing for not only us as a city staff, but you. But I will tell you that they are watching a little area of rain down near the Yucatan over the next 5 days, a little low system, but still way too early, not anything to panic about, but just giving you a warning. If you think about and look at the history of the storm origins in the month of June, there's a lot of storms that occurred in the Gulf of Mexico in the month of June. So we definitely have to keep an eye on it, not wait till August, September when things hit the peak, but start paying attention to it now. So with the 2024, the National Weather Service and all that, they're predicting about 17 to 25 named storms this year, with of those, 8 to 13 being classified as a hurricane, and 4 to 7 of those being a major hurricane. If you look at the 30-year average from 1991 to 2020, the average is about 14 named storms a year, with 7 of those being a hurricane, and 3 of them being a major storm, which is a Category 3 and above. And as you can see with the season outlook, we're looking at about 85% of a very above normal type year. I want to say that the last time we were in this type of scenario was the year that we completed the regular alphabet and entered into the Greek alphabet. So, just giving you a warning. Not to scare anybody, but just as a reminder. So what we're going to discuss tonight is a little bit around season preparation. We're going to talk about making sure you have a plan and what resources you have available for that plan, and then how you can take care of your property yourself after the storm, what resources the city has readily available for you. So as you'll see, hurricane season started June 1st, 4 days ago, and goes all the way through November 30th. Fortunately, this year we were lucky not to have anything that happened subtropical in the month of May, but as you can recall, the past few years we have had some, and there has been talk about extending the hurricane season because of the activity that has taken place in the month of May as well. But right now it's still June 1st through November 30th. The time to prepare is now. I honestly like to say if you haven't started preparing, we're already behind the 8 ball. But, you know, we have some time. But now's the time to start thinking about it. Now's the time to start preparing, start updating your information. You want to make sure you're staying informed, not just, you know, we want you to stay informed with what the city's doing, with the information that's being pushed out. Stay informed with your local news stations that you like to watch, radio stations you listen to, the Facebook, all the social media sites will push information out as well, but make sure you are informed with what's going on and what's out there. Plan to evacuate or shelter in place, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about an emergency communication plan, how vital that is to have for you and your family, and then talk about emergency supplies too. But when it comes to preparing for hurricane season, these are some things you want to take into consideration as far as your preparedness. You want to develop an evacuation plan. Now, I'll show you here shortly, but Bel Air is not part of the evacuation map per the state of Texas, per the coastal areas. But you'll realize we're in the path of everybody else that is evacuating. What we don't want to happen is we don't want another Rita take place in the state of Texas. That's why we have to make sure that we develop a evacuation plan if you're going to leave or if you're going to go now, kind of make that decision ahead of time. I get it. You may wait and see what kind of storm is being developed, what impacts may have before you make that decision. But having that plan in place allows you to know, okay, if I'm deciding to evacuate, I know where I'm going, I know what routes I'm taking, who I'm going to see, where I need to make reservations at, all that's ready to go. Because you know, just like anything else, when there's a storm in the Gulf, fuel gets expensive, lumber gets expensive, everything, all of our necessary resources go up in price, and they get very scarce. So that's part of having that plan early on. You want to assemble your disaster supplies, food, water, batteries, chargers, radio, And I like the last one, even cash. I don't know how many people still carry cash. I know if I carry cash, I spend it, so I don't carry a lot of cash. But if we lose internet, we lose electricity, how else are you going to buy something? So the cash does come in handy for some type of emergency plan. But food, non-perishable items, things that you can store, things you can take with you that will last for multiple days, up to a week or so, depending upon what non-perishable foods you like. Obviously, water. Water you can get like crazy right now, a couple pallets. Go buy some, put it in your garage, put it in your pantry at home, and that way you have it for the time if you need it. Because just like gas and lumber and things like that, water becomes very scarce when a storm is in the Gulf. Chargers. We all have phones. We like to make sure we keep those charged. Battery backups, solar packs, things of that nature. Having all that ready to go and having that plan. The radios, that could be your hurricane-type radios that don't require, batteries or don't require electricity. You could have some that require batteries, and then they even have some that you can charge up that still spins to help get you that information, not necessarily for good times, but for the information that is being pushed out there from the radio channels as far as what's going on and what's taking place. Insurance. A lot of people may not think about this, but, do an insurance check. Follow up with your insurance company as far as what their process is, what their procedures are, what information you might need to have on hand, because after the storm, if we have a situation, you want to make sure you have those documentations readily available. Because those documents that you would take, that you would put together, you want to take those with you if you evacuate. Because you don't want to come home and find out that your house has been damaged due to the storm, and then now every document that you have has been destroyed, and now you have to go through that process regaining that information. But also find out what their process is as far as how to notify them after the storm to get you help, to get you the resources to help, put the tarp on your roof or replace windows. Who do you call? Do you just go and fix it, or do you and then collect your receipts, or do you need to notify your insurance company ahead of time? So make those contacts early, stay in touch with your agent, and try to make sure you have the information and the documents you need. Create a communication plan. We all rely on our cell phones. We have all of our contacts on our cell phones majority of the time. iCloud's great because if you got an iPad, your phone dies, you've got your iPad. But if technology fails, do we memorize those phone numbers that we typically call every day? Speed dial 1 or speed dial 2. Do we have our families written down to where we can reach out to them or our neighbors? Things like that. Write all that down and keep that with the insurance documents, with your other documents as well, that you can take with you and you can have as a reference. Additional documents that I recommend either making a photocopy of are your birth certificates, driver's license, medical records, things like that that are not going to be something you can just go out and get, or download, that you can have at least copies of. Because if you lose all of that, again, it's a lengthy process. Social Security card, having that one as well, because those are important documents, especially when it comes to verifying who you are. You might need that third piece of document to validate who you are, speaking to a vendor, speaking to your insurance company, or speaking to a FEMA rep or whatever, and you don't want to delay that process. It's already bad enough that you've got damage to your residence, to your property, and the last thing you want to do is have to figure out how to obtain those additional documents so you can make copies of those ahead of time. And then strengthening your home. Look at your house. See what you have on the exterior of your house, patio furniture, barbecue pits, plants, things of that nature, things that could become flying objects. What do you need to bring into your garage? What do you need to bring into your patio area? Maybe you need to secure somehow or another where they don't become objects. Where, trampolines. Trampolines may look heavy, but when we have a windstorm, they're going to be in your neighbor's yard 3 houses down, and they're going to come home and the kids will be like, "Hey, you got me a trampoline, Mom or Dad?" No, that's, our neighbor down the road. Those things like that, we need to look at how we can secure. Not only with those little items, but also like our windows. What are our windows rated at? Do we need to have protective cover on it? I'm telling you now, lumber. Go ahead and buy the lumber now. Go ahead and cut the right size out for your window so when the storm comes, it's easy application and easy, not having to go fight everybody else at Lowe's or Home Depot to find the lumber to cover your windows. Something else I'll mention about strengthening your home is your address on your house. Make sure your address is visible from the road. A lot of people have it on the side, front of their house. A lot of people have it on the curb. I will tell you from experience, not to bring up any bad subjects, but Hurricane Harvey, if you remember how much water we had in the Southdale area, a lot of the homes we could not identify as far as an actual address because they were underwater. They were either covered by shrubs and you couldn't see it from the road, or the only address marker they had was on the curb. So make sure your address marker on the side of your house, on your mailbox, is visible from the road to make it easily identifiable for not just fire, but for police or anybody else in the city that may be coming to your residence to assist you. But just think about what all you can do. And I would recommend, too, taking pictures of your house right now, what it looks like, video of your house, exteriorly and interiorly. It gives you something to compare to if, I don't want to say when, I don't mean it in a bad way, y'all. If the storm comes and we have damage. That way you have a good comparison to what it looked like before compared to what it looks like after the incident. So we talked about knowing your evacuation zone. And I'm going to show you a map here shortly. We're not in any of the evacuation zones. But again, keep in mind, they start doing the evacuation on the coast, everybody could potentially be coming our way. Making that decision to stay or go. Develop your plan. Talk to your family. Make that decision now. Hey, if it's a Category 1, we may stay. But if it gets to a Category 3, we're going to pack our bags and we're going to go ahead and head out and kind of get ahead. Now, I get it. They want everybody to let the evacuation zones closest to the coast evacuate first and not get in the middle of traffic. But we're all human beings. We have instincts. We're going to do what we feel like is best for us. And we're going to try to evacuate when we feel like the time is right. And then obviously taking that immediate action when to evacuate and not hesitate. So as you can see here, the two different maps, and I'll show you a little bit bigger image. So the next map that's going to come up, this is the evacuation zones. Trying to play catch up over here. There it goes. All right, so this is the evacuation zones here. The purple is all the coastal areas, which will be the first areas in which they will evacuate first. And then, as you can see, it does move inland. You have zip zone A, zip zone B, and zip zone C. But then you can see Bel Air, we're not in any of the evacuation zones. We're far enough inland, I guess, because of the surge that we're not going to be impacted by surge coming from the Gulf. But it doesn't mean we're not going to get the impacts. But what I'm saying is make that decision if you're going to evacuate and monitor when the decisions are made to issue those mandatory evacuations, when the appropriate time to go is. Also, you need to make sure that you are aware of what the evacuation routes are if you do evacuate, how you're going to travel. I know this map's a little blurry, and we do have copies on the tables over there for you to take home as well. But everything in red are evacuation routes. This is Highway 6, this is 45, this is 146. 610 is not an evacuation route. I didn't throw out there so it was an Aggie evacuation route, okay? Cheryl. But Beltway 8 or 99, that'll get you out. But again, everybody else is evacuating too. The key to it is look at these signs on the roadway, which TxDOT has. Now, TxDOT does have a plan. We learn from storms. Hurricane Rita was a big eye-opener to the state of Texas. Everybody in Texas saw what happened during Hurricane Katrina. And when Rita came a short time later, everybody was like, okay, we're going to get out early. We're going to try to be proactive. And we all saw the results of that. So what TxDOT has done now, there's a lot of freeways that become contraflow lanes. They have a plan in place. Based upon the times and all that, they will go in and open the freeways and turn 45 north and south into 45 north both sides, or Highway 6, or I-10, based upon the evacuation route. But they are going to do that in staggered times based upon the storm and the impact, so forth. So it will open things up and it will allow the flow of traffic a lot better than what we saw during Rita. But even if you're planning your evacuation, planning where you might go ahead and take this into consideration. Take a map, pick out what route you're going to go, maybe even highlight it so you kind of know what your primary route is, maybe figure out what your secondary route might be in case one is congested, depending on where you're deciding to go. So after the storm comes, it moves through, we're back to sunshiny days, the best that we can be. We're trying to get the city back in operations. We want to make sure you're taken care of, you have the resources that you need. The first thing we want when you come home is we want to make sure you're safe. Okay? Inspect your house from a distance. If the power's been off, make sure you leave everything turned off until you can really inspect it. If you know your home has been underwater because of the storm, do not go flipping switches on, because we don't need, one, we don't want anybody electrocuted, but two, the system needs to be really inspected by an electrician or something. We don't want a fire to happen because of a potential mishap. But we want you to stay safe. We don't want you digging through debris, outside. Make sure you know what you're looking for. Obviously, if we have floodwaters and all that stuff and you go walking through the waters of your road, watch out for the ants that like to go flowing down the road and any type of debris or insects, things like that. So make sure you stay safe. Make sure you're aware of limbs, anything that may be overhanging. Obviously, we want you to stay healthy. Again, don't be out there in the middle of everything and breathing, if there's any type of soot, any type of mold that could develop. If your power's been off and you've got stuff in your refrigerator, some people like to do the smell test. My recommendation is you open that refrigerator up and you just throw everything away. Make note of what you write, what you throw away, because you could get reimbursement for that too. Okay? But make note of that, but don't roll the dice. It's been in there a week. Nobody's opened it. It might be okay. No, we want you to stay healthy. And then we want you to start the hurricane process to clean up. Take pictures before you do anything. Take pictures of your home, any type of damage that you may have. Open up the doors of your house if you had water in it. Potentially let it air out. Make sure you wear a mask, wear gloves to protect your hands, protect your body and things like that, and then start the process. As a city, we will push information out, especially when it comes to the cleanup process on how we can help you as far as what resources are available. When it comes to debris, until we get a disaster declaration, the city is only allowed to pick up what we normally pick up on a daily basis, your household trash, recycling, things of that nature. Once we get a disaster declaration, then we are able to pick up a lot more from a city standpoint to be able to take and help you with the debris cleanup. So, there's information over there, but if there's electronics, things of that nature, the city can't just pick it up because it's not part of the everyday debris management. But once a disaster comes in, we're able to help pick that up and take those off to different areas based upon our debris contracts and all that. So preparation, again, for the post-storm, you want to survey your potential damage. Look at your house, take in pictures, do your comparison to before and after. Resources that are available from a city standpoint, we're going to do everything we can to set up those resources to get you the information. Whether that's, we're going to push it out social media as long as we have internet, as long as we have electricity. If we don't have internet electricity, we're going to be posting things on the door. We may even do a door-to-door approach, maybe driving our city vehicles down, handing out information so you can be able to get the information. We will do the best job we possibly can as city staff based upon the amount of damage and the workload that we have going on to get that information out to you if we have to go door-to-door or on foot. Your insurance agent, like I said, is a great resource. And then there's other resources available. And I'm going to talk about one here shortly. Obviously, if you have significant damage to your house where you cannot stay due to power outages and things like that, have you an alternative location in which you can stay. Hotels can be full relatively quick. You got to think about nowadays pets. You take your pets with you when you bring them home. Make sure you've got an area for them. But if you have to, go to an alternative location, make sure it's a pet-friendly place. I will say that a lot of hotels have gotten very, I'll say, generous. That if they don't allow pets for normal stay, but when it comes to a disaster, they kind of open things up because they know pets are like kids, and pets travel with a lot of people, so they want to make sure that they are able to help you out the best that they can. But have all this kind of figured out ahead of time. We will do everything we can from a city standpoint through our means of communication to get you the information. And Cheryl's going to talk about a communication from the city on how we will get that information out.
Okay. So when we activate for a storm in our emergency operations center, we will have all of that information on the city's website, bellairtx.gov. So there'll be alert at the top of the city website, and there'll also be a banner for storm information. You can access it from both of those locations on the city's website. In addition to that, every piece of information that we push out that's on the website, we're going to push out through Notify Me in the Bel Air News and Information section. We'll send it out, Prepare Bel Air, as an alert. We will also post it on our city's social media platforms, our official City of Bel Air social media platforms, which are Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we also have a Nextdoor platform. So those are all of our methods that we're going to be pushing information out. Unless we get to a point where we're not able to use the electricity and use our electronic and digital platforms, then we'll begin printing out the information, posting it in our city facilities, and if we have to, go door to door and push it out that way. So hopefully we'll never get to that point. But what I want to encourage you all to do, if you haven't already, at the very minimum, please sign up for Prepare Bel Air, because that's our emergency notification platform, and that's our mass notification platform. Some of you that are already registered, you might be receiving daily alerts from the National Weather Service about it being hot outside, or if it's a thunderstorm. So you can actually go into Prepare Bel Air, and you can choose the different types of alerts that you receive. You can receive alerts from the city. You can receive different types of weather-related alerts. But there's one alert that you can't click off, and that's a tornado warning. So you'll always receive that warning through Prepare Bel Air, which comes actually directly from the National Weather Service. We also encourage you to sign up for readyharris.org. That's another alerting system. So that way you understand what's going on in the city of Bel Air, but you'll also understand what's going on in Harris County. That might be a lot of alerts for you, but those are the two at minimum that we encourage you to sign up for. So I'll hand this back to Deacon.
So during a storm, even before the storm comes, we will activate our EOC. We will push information out, letting you know, hey, our EOC's been activated. You know, during the storm, middle of the storm, or after the storm, if you have any questions or comments, you know, you can call that number, 713-662-8206, and that will get you a representative in our EOC to be able to take your question and hopefully be able to answer it. If not, we'll gather your information, gather your question, and we will follow back up with an answer as soon as we possibly can. Now, if you have an emergency, we don't want you to call 8206. We want you to dial 911. If you think it might be an emergency, but like, I'm not sure if it is, you can call 911. It's perfectly fine. We have some highly certified, trained communications officers that will take your information. They will put it into the system, and they will get the appropriate agency-based department out to assist you based upon the information that you call. I do know the city also uses C-Click Fix as ways to report non-emergency type situations, and there's somebody that will be monitoring that during a storm activation. It gets monitored all the time. I don't want to mislead and say it's not monitored, but especially during a storm incident, that is also monitored as well. But those are the two numbers that you can call during an activation, because once we activate as an EOC, you know, you might be able to call one of our office lines, but we may not necessarily answer it because we're monitoring the EOC. We're working through the incident or the emergency at the time and may not necessarily pick up our office lines at that time, but 8206 would be a monitored line without a doubt. And the 911 system. Now, I will tell you that 911 could get overloaded if it gets real bad. Be patient. If you dial 911, depending on where you call from, because we have found this out in the city, if you dial 911 from your cell phone, depending on how close you are to like 59, you may get the city of Houston. Not a problem. You can give them your address, give them your information. They will transfer you back to our communication system, or they will take the information and then they will call our communication system to give us that information. It just has to do with what cell tower you hit when you dial 911. Some other communications that you could receive as well is from the National Weather Service. Sorry, technology, there it goes. It's from the National Weather Service. I'll leave this up. You can feel free to take a picture of that, but they have a website that you can follow and monitor the local office, which is located down in League City. They have a Twitter account, which, again, they'll be posting updates during the incident, pre, during, and post as well. Facebook page. They have a YouTube channel. And then they also have published the Hurricane and Severe Guide for this year. We will be getting copies of it here within the city, but if you want the exclusive version and get it today, you can take a picture of the QR code and get it electronically. That is the latest Hurricane Preparedness Guide put out by the National Weather Service that will have preparation tips, guidelines, things that will help you during this hurricane season. And I'll put this back up too afterwards so that way you can scan. Another area that we want to make sure we emphasize to everyone is the STEER program. The STEER program is the State of Texas Emergency Assistance Registry. This is a program that the Texas Department of Emergency Management has had for years. I think it's a great program, and basically it's individuals that might need extra assistance because they're elderly, they're medical conditions, they live alone, just might need that extra hand during an emergency. They may not have any relatives or anybody close by. We encourage everybody that can or that fits the categories to sign up. You can dial 211 from your phone when they answer. Select option 4. You'll speak to an individual. They'll take your information, get you registered. Yes, you're going to talk to somebody from the state of Texas, but when you register, you'll be registered under the City of Bel Air's account. Or you can also register online at the steer.dps.tex.gov. The importance behind registering is when we have a storm in the Gulf and there's predictions that it's coming our way, we will get a notification. J.W. Edwards, Officer Edwards, is over the STEER program. He will pull the list of everybody that has signed up, and we will make personal phone calls to everybody on that list to make sure, hey, are you okay? What's your plan? Are you staying? Are you leaving? You know, what needs might you have? And then it's a list that we will continuously reach out and make contact with during the event, after the event, and do what we can do to try to help those individuals out. I'm not saying we have the resources available. Like, before we've supplied generators to people that were on oxygen that had lost electricity to help them out. Not saying it's something we can do every time, but we will see what needs are there, and we will utilize what we have, but also through the county and the state to try to help bring in additional resources to assist those individuals. We did, like I said, so we highly encourage that. If you have additional questions, you can go see the Bel Air Police Department who has information on that. And we encourage anybody and everybody that has the opportunity to sign up for that, because that is important. That is something that we do continuously monitor, and we will reach out to get those that need the assistance help. Now, we talk about, we try to do what we can to make sure you are prepared. But just so you know, while you're preparing for the incident, we are also preparing from a city. We're taking care of our family, hopefully well before we get called back into work, getting our family ready to go and to be able to survive this to the best of their ability. But then we're also coming in and we're doing preparation as well. We're no different than you. Where you're preparing your property and your house, we're preparing the city facilities, the city, in preparation for the impacts that we could encounter. We have facility checklists that we utilize on all of our buildings to make sure everything is in order and what needs to be done. We have a community checklist. Our development services department will get out there. They send a team out. We'll go to these construction sites. They reach out to the construction managers to make sure that their properties are locked up, they're secure, the lumber is secure so we don't have flying debris, things of that nature. And there's other things, we go check our generators. We check all of our pumps with Public Works. So there's a whole list of things that we do out in the community outside of the facilities. We're continuously training as an EOC staff, Emergency Operations Center. So I use acronyms a lot, so I do apologize. But as an Emergency Operations Center team, we're continuously training. We're trying to stay on top of the different situations, the different resources that are available. We're training with Texas Department of Emergency Management and just making sure we have all of the routes necessary to be able to not only get the city back in the best operational status that we can and as quickly as we can too. We're constantly building relationships with all the different partners around us, through the grocery stores to the gas stations, food chains, things of that nature, because that's kind of our goal is when we have that disaster, is we want to be able to reach out and say, okay, who's open? Is HEB open? Is this gas station open? Is, Marble Slab open because we might need some ice cream by then. It's so hot outside. Who's open so we can take that information in and share it with you as well. because you're already going through a bad time as it is, and you might just need that ice cream cone just to go and get your mind off of things and take a break from it all. But we want to build those partnerships. We're working with the Chamber. We're working with the Rotary because they have resources. I attended a conference last week, and I found something out. Whataburger is, huge. I know we don't have a Whataburger in the city, but they're just outside our city. And I talked to the emergency management coordinator of Whataburger, and they're like, if y'all ever need something because you have something that impacts Bel Air, you give us a call, and we will see what we can do. Whataburger is very big on supporting because they're family-owned, but their community, they consider it home. And they will open up, bring generators, and just serve food to residents, first responders, at no cost. So it was like, okay, well, good. We're going to start building partnerships with Whataburger. Anybody, we're open. We're not, proprietary to certain ones. We're open to anybody. But I thought that was a pretty cool potential partnership there. Volunteers and donations. This is big. During Hurricane Harvey, we had residents that showed up. What can I do to help? What can I donate? I will say that from the fire department standpoint, we got towels, we got socks, we got underwear, things like that brought to the guys, and they appreciated it more than anything because, they packed their clothes, they went through all their clothes, going through all the water, and now they got fresh towels, they got fresh pairs of socks. They didn't care if it matched or not. But, donations are something that is very appreciative. And we will have a process for donations if anybody would like to donate, or even if you'd like to volunteer. We want you to take care of your home first. Make sure you are good to go. Make sure your neighbors are good to go. And then once all that is done, and if you want to come volunteer, we will put that information out. We're looking for volunteers and where you can report to, and we will get you set up to come give back to the community. So that is definitely topics that we are looking at. And then obviously resources available. We might be a small city and has limited resources, but during a disaster, we have partnerships with Harris County. We've got partnerships with the state of Texas that we can get additional resources in. Obviously, it may take time depending upon the type of resources that we request, but there is a process. And we will request those resources, and we will stay on top of those resource requests, but there's a lot of resources available. If we get impacted and Westview doesn't, the door is open. They will assist us and vice versa. City of Houston's the same way. So we have resources out there. It's just a matter of, are we fighting and competing with for other agencies for the same resource, and how long will it take to get here? But we do have a lot of options available. The last thing I want to touch on is the ISTAT. Now, everybody was here during the derecho that took place middle of May, 7 miles east of us. Thank you. Had it been 7 miles west, we'd have been right in the middle of the track. The derecho, was that severe thunderstorm that started in Cypress, 100-mile-an-hour winds that went through center of Houston, northeast portions of Houston, and traveled through. That toppled all the transmission towers from Center Point. There was significant damage. Bel Air, I think, fared pretty good. We had some trees that got lost, or not, they weren't lost. We lost some trees. We had some fences that were blown down, but I don't think we had any structural damage. If we did, none that were reported. But the ISTAT program is a program that the state of Texas is using that we pushed out during the derecho in early May to gather the information as far as property damage. This is a form that we will push this QR code out. We will push the website out that you as an individual will fill out on your phone, if you have power, obviously, cellular. If not, we will set up resource centers. They're going to ask you like your name, your address, do you have insurance, what your deductible is, and then they're going to want to see pictures of the type of damage you were reporting. What this information does, this helps the county reach that dollar threshold as far as dollar amount of damage. That also pushes up to the state. It allows the state to see those thresholds as far as dollar amount of damage that's been done in the state of Texas to help get us those disaster declarations. There's thresholds that take it from a county level, a local level to a county level to a state level disaster to a presidential declaration. Each level that we progress opens up a little bit more for resources and support and help. The more people that report their property damage, you're not bound by anything. You can submit it and never need any help at all, but it's just a way for us to see how impactful our community was. But when we hit a presidential disaster declaration, it really opens up a lot more for communities to be able to get the extra resources in, potential funding situations. The severe weather that's taken place since April 26th up to now, the floods that's happened in the Houston area, the tornadoes, the derecho, things like that, the state of Texas has been able to combine all of that damage into one, and we are under a presidential declaration right now for all of that. So it's a plus. It's a very positive thing. So you will see this QR code pushed out, or you will see the website address for you to go to pushed out once when the incident happens. It's not just something that we're collecting the information and gathering. We want to see how much damage has been done in the city, but it's a way for us to gather the resources to get you the help that you need. We will be, utilizing, like we did during Harvey. We set up Harvey Resource Center in our Parks and Rec gym. If we have situations, we will find a location, we will push that information out, and we will set up a resource center to allow you to come in. It may be come in to fill out this form. It may be come in to just get information. We will utilize everything we can to make sure you have the information you have, again, even if it's providing a facility to do the documentation for that. But again, when you see this, that's what that form is for, is to help us see how much damage has been done, but also hit those thresholds going up to gain those additional resources and support for you. Now, it's not saying you're going to get, somebody, FEMA's not going to send a roofer to your house to, roof it, but if we know you're in need of that, it does allow options to be able to provide you that support. Because FEMA's still in the Houston area right now because of all the severe weather, providing that assistance to residents that have been impacted from the severe weather that's taken place over a month. And with that, I will open the floor up to any questions that you may have. Yes, sir. Right. Right. Police station, City Hall is, main central well is, and I'll let Mark talk about some of the wells too. That's on one generator. That is diesel powered. I don't know how many days. Once it's full, it can run though. But we will bring in fuel trucks as well before the storm. We have all that predetermined ahead of time. The fire station, I will tell you, is on natural gas. So as long as we don't lose natural gas, the fire station will run continuously. As far as other generators, the sewage, wastewater treatment plant, things of that nature. And we're always in constant communication with Centerpoint. You're right, if you live on a hub near a school, hospital, city campus, things like that, typically you do get your power restored a lot faster than others. I will say that with the derecho that went through in mid-May, everybody saw the numbers, nearly 1 million people without power. And within a week's time, almost everybody, I won't say everybody, but I'd say about 99% of the customers were able to regain power. Now, you might have been out longer than expected. I know there was areas in Bel Air that was out 5, 6, 7 days. But we have been in contact with Centerpoint since the derecho to make sure, our communication, lines of communication are where they need to be. Make sure we have the right point of contacts because they've had some turnover within their facility as well. And we just want to make sure we are where we need to be. Not saying it's going to speed things up, but it's that partnership we talked about, that if they know we have a block over here that's the only block that's out of power, they might have somebody, they're in our backyard, Center Point is, so they might be able to just drive by and say, oh, it's just a fuse, pop it real quick and go on to their next site. So, yeah, a lot of the city facilities, I say a lot, have the generation, but again, it is fuel-based, majority of them. So, based upon the tanks, we fill them all up, obviously, right beforehand, and as long as we can get fuel afterwards, they'll stay running. But you're right, the demand's there based upon the impacts that we have. Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally understand that too. We're dependent on obviously the natural gas in ours versus the fuel. But yes, sir. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Transformers. Mm-hmm. I don't off the top, but get with me afterwards. Let's get your information, and we can reach out to our point of contacts and just have them, make that area aware and just see what they might be able to do. I mean, I'm not, whoever you talk to, I mean, they may be accurate. I'm not going to say one way or another, but we'll reach out to and just kind of see. Yes, ma'am. Right. Yeah, we're aware of some areas within the city that every time the wind blows 10, 15 miles an hour, they lose power. And a lot of it's maintenance, a lot of it's trees. And they're on a maintenance program, but sometimes it takes them a little bit longer to get in to trim the trees and things of that nature. But we'll gather your information and just be able to reach out. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're absolutely right because I have one, a portable generator like what you're talking about from my house as well. And I've never used it up until this last round of storms, and it powered just enough to keep, the family where they're comfortable. But recommendations on that, absolutely get your generator. Kind of look at the wattage of what you're looking at trying to run. Make sure that the generator, I'm going to just say, is kept outside. This is the fire chief coming out at me now. Kept outside. Make sure the exhaust is away from windows. Make sure it's away from doors, things of that nature. Because the carbon monoxide that comes off of that, we don't need existing things that did take place. I will tell you, during Ike, we had a generator that ran inside somebody's house and actually caught their house on fire in the city. I will tell you that I have seen things like, you're running a generator and your neighbor across the street doesn't have power and extension cords that run across the street. Look, we don't recommend it, but if that's what it takes to help a neighbor, that's fine. But just keep in mind, every time a car drives over it, it's potentially breaking down the wiring on the inside of those extension cords. So just monitor that. Like I said, when it comes to survival, we may not like it, we may not recommend it, but we understand it. But you bring up a good point. Generators, research your generators because, it's hurricane season. Price of generators, just like everything else, has gone up a little bit, but definitely research it. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. That's a good point. Part of your plan, maybe on your checklist is to notify your doctor, hey, there's a storm coming in. Can I get a refill early? Can I get 7 extra days? Can I get 10 extra days? A lot of times doctors will help you out. And like you said, because the supply chain, if you're doing it, other people are doing it as well. So that's a good point. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that. Yes, sir. I'll take the feedback for sure. Yeah. And then if they even have the fuel because they've ran out and then we're able to refill it too. Yes, sir. Yeah, you're right. Because you either got to store a lot ahead of time, and that way you have it for the potential duration, or you roll the dice, and then that could be very dicey without a doubt. Yes, sir. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you either on that. Are there any other questions? Well, if you don't have any other questions, I appreciate your time tonight. Don't feel like you've got to leave. We've got plenty of tables here with a lot of great information. I'll be hanging around as well. So enjoy the evening, and we appreciate y'all very much, and thank y'all for coming.